All right, what's up, everybody out there in social media land? If you're scrolling through one of your social media accounts, whether it's BoobTube, FaceSpace, Shitter, or Fat Chat, and you are watching me now, please stick around because I am going to make a self-help video based upon a certain topic, and hopefully, not only can this video help you, but maybe it could save a life. So stick around. So welcome to episode number 6 of History in the Writing with local author here, Gennaro Lombardi, aka Gio for short, at your service here. And it's nice today. I actually have all 5 of my books with me. I have 4 self-published and 1 officially published book. So I always come on here to do 2 things, which is a self-help video based upon a certain topic. Sometimes I like to top 5 ways on how to get out of a ticket or something like that, like my last video. And then the second part of the video is just always book promotions. I talk about my books, up-and-coming events, or anything of the sorts. So we're going to jump right to topic today because, like I said, I believe this topic is very important, and not only will it help people in their everyday lives, but it could actually save a life. So here we go. All right, so today's video is going to be top 5 ways on how to beat depression. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I didn't want to make this video. I think I've been in a bit of a funk lately because I've had a lot of negative things happen in my life, life circumstances that are negative and things aren't going my way. And I've been pretty upset about it. And it's not, I don't want to ever say I've really been depressed, an upset, a sad person, but there are certain things that have been happening in my life, since after the age of 28, that my go-to emotion just does absolutely nothing for anymore, which my go-to emotion was always anger. I saw somebody growing up around me, when I grew up, somebody around me, that's all they ever used. They would just scream their head off and use anger to get their way, and that's what I did for many years, right? But now, as I've gotten older, and I've been through so many circumstances, loss of friends through drug and alcohol addiction, loss of friends through suicide, tragedy, a major illness in my life where I've been sick on and off for years, and thank God I'm better now. What happened to me last week, I had a bad week. I always have 2 cars. Both my cars kicked the bucket, and one of the cars I loved very much. I invested a lot of time and money into it. The other car was basically a brand new used car, and for some reason it was a complete lemon. I didn't even get 1,000 miles on it, and the engine blew up. So, so it was pretty terrible. But you know what it is? I can't get mad over things I have no control over anymore, but I do get sad about it sometimes. I think about it and I say to myself, oh, why has God forsaken me? Why does this happen to me? It's constantly happening to me. This is just negative, and woe is me. Poor me, pour me a drink. I've been there. So there are a lot of things I've used to not stay stuck in that negative frame of mind, that negative way of thinking, to not stay stuck there emotionally, and to move forward faster, easier, and better, and to move on with our lives, because if we don't, we're going to stay there and everybody else is going to move away from us or move on without us, and we're going to stay stuck there, and we're going to get sick, and we're going to be ill and eventually die. And that's it. So let's move on to the tips and tricks that I've used in my life, and hopefully this helps. All right, so we're going to jump right to the tips here and try to speed this up a little bit. So tip number 1 would be to talk to someone. Okay, so I'll explain it to you like this. A great philosopher said is that the best thing we could ever talk about are the worst things that ever happened to us. And what I mean by that is when things happen to us, and we're thinking about it constantly and over, if we hold that stuff in and we don't talk about it, and we drink over it, and we drug, and we try to numb that pain, and we think we could just take it on, I'm a man, I could just deal with it, it's going to break you down, and the longer you hold it in, the more it's going to eat you up on the inside. So do whatever you have to do to go out and talk to somebody. Talk to a psychiatrist, call your best friends, there are support groups where you could get out and talk to people. That's always a good one, or just even talk to a stranger. And what it is, it's not always necessarily asking for help. It's just literally talking about the situation and getting it off your chest. It helps us. It's just not holding on to it. So there's ways to deal with that, and that's all for today. All right, so tip number 2 is mood through food, right? So eat a better quality of food, and it will change your mood. So there's 2 parts to this, okay? So there's the thing that a lot of people always say, which is it's what's in the food that's killing us, right? Which inevitably, in part, it is, okay? That's part 1. So if you can avoid foods that have negative things inside, so if you buy organic, it's pesticide free. So the organic foods always start with the number 9. That's one when especially when you're checking out produce and stuff like that. 93046 or whatever it is, right? So eating organic's healthy. Look for non-GMO labels, farm fresh fish, stuff like that. Not farm fresh. Actually, you don't want farm fresh. You want wild caught. So if it says farm raised, avoid it. And there's a couple other things. So the better quality food helps us eliminating GMO foods and pesticides. My sister ate a batch of strawberries one time. She had a bad breakout because of the pesticides on the food, right? So there's that. And then the second part of it is that it's what's not in the food that's killing us. And a lot of us are missing and not eating foods that are nutrient dense like our ancestors used to eat. And that's especially organ meats. And then the other one is fermented foods, because for millennia, our ancestors did not have refrigerators, so everything they ate was either pickled or fermented. And when you eat fermented foods, you kind of want to stay away from pickled foods because it has vinegar in it, kills the good bacteria. But fermented foods, especially things like sour cream, sauerkraut, yogurt, kefir, kimchi, and there's a plethora, a whole list of fermented foods. When you eat those, you get good bacteria back in your stomach that's missing. So, for example, and this is a huge one for mood support, it's called bifidobacterium, right? So when you're missing, or when people say, hey, I eat a lot of pasta and I'm getting carb loaded, and I feel real bloated. It sits around so I can't even eat carbs anymore. It's kind of like when a person eats lactose, drinks milk, and they say, oh, I can't digest it properly, I run to the bathroom. The reason they can't digest lactose anymore is because they're missing the bacterium in their stomach called lactose bacillus. And you can actually get that from eating sauerkraut. You actually just put it back in your stomach, you eat that, and then you start digesting milk again. A lot of people don't know that. So bifidobacterium not only helps you digest carbohydrates properly, but it also helps you break down food to where you build serotonin in your stomach. There's a whole ecosystem there. We build up a lot of the chemicals and that help us with our mood. I think it's like 75% of our actual immune system is in our stomach and stuff like that. So please look up bifidobacterium. I bought one off of, I think it was, a vitamin shop type thing, and it's for mood support. Literally, it says that it's a histamine-free one. It was actually really worked. But you get in local yogurts. I get at Trader Joe's. That's that. And the other one that really worked for me is St. John's wort. St. John's wort is just an herb that's big in Europe because they actually use this instead of prescribing antidepressants. And I make a tea with it. And when I had really bad seasonal affective disorder 10 years ago with all the long winters, it worked incredibly for me. And there's another thing too. It's called 5-HTP. They sell at regular like GNC, Vitamin Shop. And that's the amino acids or something that helps you break down the foods, same thing, so you can make more chemicals and more serotonin, and it helps. It's like a transporter, really, or like an amino acid. I'm not exactly sure. You can look it up. I've used it before, and a lot of people swear by that one too. And that's all I got. Number 3 is exercise, and there are a lot of exercise that boost mood, right? A lot of people that go to the gym don't go there just to build muscle and to look like, I lift things up and I put them down. It's stupid. It's kind of ridiculous. I go there not only to just, look good, not only to look good, building muscle is a part of it for me as a man, but feeling good is inevitably probably 75% of my reason for going. I feel better after I work out. Whether I detox, I'm heavy sweating, I lift weights, I feel stronger, I feel more confident. When I'm a little heavier, I try to balance my weight. I don't want to get too heavy or look too lean, stuff like that. So, but there is one exercise that specifically boosts mood more than the rest, and that's running and running for your life. And the reason for that is because when you do that, you kick your system. I don't know exact science for it, but all I know is that you're going into the, there's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. You're kicking in the adrenaline glands. Your body is saying you're running for your life. Basically, that's what it is. You're kicking in all the endorphins, and it's called a runner's high. And when you're done, you feel incredible. And really, I didn't believe it because I was never really a big runner. I loved to ride my bike when I was younger. I can walk from here to New York City, but I can't really run. I do 30 minutes on the treadmill. I run for 3 minutes and walk for another 3 because I I've built up a little tolerance to run more. So that's really it for that one. You know, run and run for your life. And when you get off the treadmill, you're going to feel a lot better mentally. All right, so tip number 4 is sun therapy, but it's not really sun therapy. It's actually vitamin D therapy, right? It's just that going out in the sun for 1 hour a day is as healthy a way to get your vitamin D up as it is as eating eggs, probably even better. So I will say this from absolute experience. I was ill kind of about like a year, 2 years ago. I have an autoimmune disorder. I wasn't able to eat right properly. I had a little bit of a stomach infection. And my vitamin D had gotten so low that my doctor said he had actually never seen one that low. My level of D was at a 5. It's supposed to be normally, for normal people to be healthy, it's supposed to be a 25 and a 50 or something like that, right? So I don't even want to tell you the effects I was having when it was that low. Bone weakness, easy bruising, things hurt all the time, fatigue. It's terrible. So, and it affects the libido too, and affects a lot of other things. Definitely affects you mentally, right? So go out in the sun for a day. That's what I do. My vitamin D finally, after 10 years, is back to a normal level. It's at a 30, thank God. Another way is eating eggs, but specifically egg yolks, good eggs, because there's a lot of vitamin D in there. Don't worry about cholesterol. It's good cholesterol. There's 2 kinds, HDL, LDL, blah, blah, blah. And the other one is there's 2 other foods, and you'd say milk fortified is pretty good, and so are mushrooms. A lot of people don't know that. Mushrooms are very, very high in vitamin D. And that's it. The more you get your vitamin D up, the healthier you will be, the better you will feel physically, and the better you will feel mentally. Tip number 5 is surround yourself with positive people. Now this gets a little tricky for certain people and in certain situations, and I understand this because this is incredibly difficult to do if you're living with negative people. Sometimes our friends and our family and the people that we live with can truly affect our lives, especially if there's a lot of fighting going on in the home. I grew up in a truly dysfunctional household that affected me growing up and stuff like that. So and this is the thing, if the person is young, they can't just leave the house because they're a minor. They can't get out all the time, so they're stuck in the situation. And the other one, if it's a woman and she's in an abusive relationship, she can't afford to just move out. You can't just get out, you're married. It's just not that simple, and I understand that. So if you take my advice, maybe you can do some more simple things to surround yourself with positive people until you could get out of the situation permanently, which would be go to support groups. There are AA and NA meetings. There are, like, if you have a medical condition like I did, lupus, you could go to lupus support groups. You could go talk to a psychiatrist. Go surround yourself with your best friends. That's always good. I go to all the positive places where there are a lot of people. The gym is always a good one. The library, Barnes and Nobles. Going to events are really good. Concerts, there's a lot of people having a good time there. And I could name a few others, but you get the point. Is just try to get out of your situation. If you could get out of your house as much as possible, do that until you could save up enough to move out permanently. And that's really about it. Tip number 6 is touch therapy, okay? And what I mean by that is the more you get in touch with other people physically, the better you're going to feel. So now, if you don't believe me, I'm going to read you something real quick just to prove this to you, okay? And we're going to actually go from babies to children to adulthood. So go on Google and if you type in, do babies die if they are not held? And it says, touch is essential for human survival. Babies who are deprived of touch can fail to thrive, lose weight, and even die. Babies and young children who do not get touched also have low levels of growth hormone, so a lack of touch can actually stunt a child's growth, okay? So that's with babies, that's with adults, and in my book, A World of Chakras, I actually put a study that the doctors did in an orphanage in Peru, I think it was, or something like that, where say there was 10 kids around the same age, okay, same age and height and weight, and they're all 5 years old. They took, or 5 of the kids got adopted and got sent to loving homes and got parents, and the other 5 kids that stayed back, they took the kids a year later, brought them back together, and what they saw was that the 5 kids that got left back and didn't get into the hands of loving homes always showed signs of not only physical stunted growth, but mental ones. They suffered mentally. They were not developed as much, whether it was reading or writing or any of that stuff. So now let's take it into adulthood, because this is a proven fact for kids. If you're an adult and you're depressed and you just go to work and you're miserable all the time, and you go home and lay in your bed and you don't go out and don't go out anymore, and you don't touch your wife, right? If you want to be with your woman and you don't touch her anymore, you don't hug your kids, you don't go out and shake your friends' hands, you don't go to sporting events and bump shoulders with people or at the gym or anything like that, you're going to get sick from it and you're going to die. That's a proven fact. And I truly believe that as adults now, because now that I look at it, if I look at kids and young people who play sports and get involved in like high school and go out and take initiative and play basketball, football, and bump shoulders all the time, they're always bigger than everybody else. It actually not only works as a child to help us grow, but I believe even as adults to help us move through life and to keep us growing and thriving. And like I said, because if you stay stagnant and don't talk and don't touch anybody, you can suffer the physical consequences, but also the mental ones. So I believe this helps. One thing that helps me is not only going to the gym every day, bumping shoulders with guys, shaking hands and stuff like that, but I go for a foot massage once every 2 weeks, and foot reflexology makes me feel like I have new feet for like 2 or 3 days. It's amazing. But not only that, but it helps me with body language, because I stand a little straighter, I hold my head up high, it helps with my back and less pain, and I feel better mentally. So that's all I got for that. All right, so this is tip number 7, and I saved the best for last. And tip number 7 is have sex, and not only should you be having sex, you should be having as much sex as humanly possible. And there's a few things to this, right? So if we're not having sex, there's 2 parts. If we're not having sex, we can fall into depression, and sometimes we are not having sex because we are already depressed, right? So it's twofold, and I'll explain it to you like this. If you're in a healthy relationship, you've been sexually active, a bad breakup happens for whatever reason, and then after that you want to get over the person emotionally, and then you stay celibate for 6 months, I get it. I've done it as a man. Everybody thinks like, oh, a man just jumps into bed with another woman. No, sometimes guys need to take time for themselves too. So you don't just jump into another relationship, especially as you get older. It's just not very healthy, right? So if you want to take time to yourself, that's cool. But a year later, when you want to start dating again, and then now you've been by yourself for so long, and then you become picky and you become choosy and you just kind of like nitpick at stuff like that, you become very negative, and you want to become sexually active with people, and then you're kind of like afraid to move forward. Get rid of that fear, get rid of that negativity, whatever's stopping you from moving forward sexually, and please go out on a date and start having sex, because you're going to feel 100 times better. Because I know it did for me, right? I was celibate for a while, and then when I started having sex again, it's like, oh, I've been missing this my whole time. Oh, where it's like it's an aspect of life that I feel like I should never be without again. It's terrible. It's like when you're kind of like missing. I was like, oh, where was like it's like not eating for a while. It's terrible. So that's the first part, and then the second part is if you are in a healthy relationship, or if you are in a relationship, not really a healthy one. Say you're married. And you're having sex with your wife once every 6 months, you're probably depressed. There's something wrong with you, and you should really get that assessed, and checked out. And maybe you could look at everything I said before this and see what is affecting your life and the reason why you're not having sex. Are you just unhappy because you work? Are you are you physically unhealthy? Are you not eating right? Are your energy levels not up? Because if you're not eating right, your libido is going to be low, and then you're not going to have sex, and you're going to be depressed because of it. So there's that, and there's a point, you're living in a negative environment. Is the other people around you affecting you? Whatever it is, figure out a way, hopefully, to assess why you're depressed and why your libido is low, and get it up so you can start having sex with the person that you love again and get your life back. Because if not, you're going to lose your relationship. And it works both ways. The women leave men because there's no sex, and the men leave women. It's a part of life. It's like my buddy once said, it's like the glue that holds us together. It really is. When that aspect leaves, a lot of the rest of the relationship leaves too. What are we going to stay together for as a job? So There's a lot of things that come with sex, you know, the hormones that are released, the serotonin, oxytocin, and there's so many things that when you're going through the process that are released that help you feel good. Especially, I'm not a big morning sex person, but like if I do, I know I feel much better and I am much lighthearted throughout the rest of my day. It's pretty amazing, actually, you know. So that's all I can say for this. I'm not a sex therapist. I'm not like that old woman on the TV in the 80s who was talking, or in the 90s, used to talk about sex all the time. So do whatever you can to raise your libido, start having sex, make love, not war, and that's it. So this is pretty much the end of the video. I'd like to thank you for sticking around if you've made it this far. I hope this video has truly helped you in some way, and you can take the tips or tricks or whatever to use those and to improve your quality of life. What we have to remember, most of all, when it comes to depression, is that depression is the devil in our head telling us that we're not good enough. And I've had those voices before, man. And what I have to remember every day is another way to beat depression is that I have to be the one to think positive, because my subconscious mind thinks everything is negative. Everything is shit and everything sucks. I have to say, this is okay, this is going to get better, I'm okay, and I'm going to get better. I have to do that physically. It's work for me. It's work for me to think and to feel positive sometimes. So that's really about it. What I'm going to do after this, if you're going to stick around, is just promote my books real quick. But like I said, beat the depression, live a better quality of life, stay happy, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of History in the Writing. Alright, so I'm actually going to show off all 5 of my books today, which I have. So I have 4 self-published, 1 officially published, and we're going to go in chronological order. And this was my first book ever that came out in 2017. This is self-published. This is on Amazon as well. This is called Italian Lessons 101. This was my first self-published book ever. My first book ever self-published, like I said, through Lulu.com. It's a very good self-publishing website. It's a short synopsis about my life growing up in an Italian household, and then 101 motivational quotes by Italians. That's really it. Book number 2 is my claim to fame, the one that everybody knows. This is my one and only officially published book through Dorrance Publishing. It's called Road Rage at its Finest, and it's the first self-help book ever written for Road Rage. I was featured on ESPN Radio for it and News 12 New Jersey back in January. That was pretty awesome. This is my 3rd book. It took me 3 years to write. It's a novel called Disco Ain't Dead. It's a horror/comedy. And I've had about 20 or 30 people read this book just to get feedback on it, because the reason why I wrote this book was not really to become a novel, but my childhood dream was to always bring something to the big screen, and that's this. My buddy believed in it so much that he turned it into a screenplay for me, and I have it, and all I have to do is get a literary agent to pick up the novel, a literary agent to pick up the screenplay, and then we can turn it over to producers, and then we're going to film. This book is number 4. We're going to go with, so this is an instruction basically a teacher's manual. So if you're looking for work in the yoga field, if you're a yoga instructor, you could always reach out to me. It's called The World of Chakras. It's a 7-week chakra meditation enhancement seminar that either I subcontract out to yoga teachers. They pay me a fee. They go through the work. They learn the course. They teach it themselves. And they give me a percentage usually, sometimes 2, but not always. I sell a home edition so people can learn for themselves. I sold a few copies like that, and I teach the class myself one-on-one too, every once in a while. So yeah, it's a 7-week chakra meditation enhancement course. And then my last book is just called A Little Motivation. This is self-published too, through Lulu.com. I sold like 10 to 20 copies, and it's nothing more than like my thoughts, ideas, my motivational quotes, philosophies, and poems. And it's not too bad. I mean, I want to do it. I've written so much more in the last year that I want to, of course, update that book. So that's it. Thanks again for always sticking around. Check out my books on Amazon or Lulu.com, and I truly appreciate you guys. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. And if you ever need anything, I'm right here in Nutley, New Jersey. Come check me out.